Yeah. Hi, everyone. What's up? It's me, Angel, the founder of Soul Image 365. Thank you all for being here today. And we've got a collab episode. I'm here with Courtney Carlson, and we took a program together um, 5 years ago now, which is wild, but we're both in like the emotional healing space and like growing as a woman. So I thought it would be great to have her on, and I will let her introduce herself, and then we're just going to dive into some conversation.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation. We've been looking forward to it for a while. So I'm Courtney Carlson, and I am a writer and author and speaker. And I love to just bring the emotional healing that I've gotten and the breakthrough that I've gotten to lots of different platforms so that people can kind of grab onto what we've gone through. So.
I grew up in a neighborhood where I was the only girl who looked like me. I was othered. I was also dyslexic and didn't know it. And because of that, I felt like I didn't have any gifts to offer the world. But as I grew up and learned, like, oh, okay, I have dyslexia, and there are many types of thought processes that God created. There's many types of beauty that God created. And so with that, I'm like, wow, like I have found this breakthrough and I've been able to step into who I am, the freedom of who I want to be, the choices I make in life. So I want other women to be able to do the same. And that's why I'm on this journey.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you and I have connected on some of that because that's really similar to my journey and story is,
Yeah.
I have ADHD, I have severe dyslexia, and learning disabilities and all things that, just came to light in as an adult, right? And so yeah, when you're and I love globally that we're talking about this. We're having these conversations of neurodivergency and really how our brains are wired. And I had this conversation with someone the other day because it's not just like even one slice of neurodivergent. It's like neurodivergent,
Mhm.
I mean, your brain's different. And that's so
Yeah,
cool because there are, it's like Baskin Robbins, it's like 32 flavors. Like
I
everyone's
know.
so
Yeah.
unique in their expression and how God
Yeah.
made us. But yeah, I mean, some of the pain and hurt that can come from a kid being undiagnosed, or even when they have the diagnosis, doesn't make it, doesn't make the pain go away. Because I think
That's so true.
yeah, the pain really comes from those subtle isolations and rejections and overall
Yeah.
abandonment sometimes. A huge part of my story that I'm still on this like grappling with and struggling with sometimes, but is this self-abandonment part of we abandon ourselves in order to, like you just said, put the mask on, please the other
Mhm.
person. You know what I mean? Where like, it's these subtle, they're so subtle. It's like you are just a little wild in a moment and someone shoots you a look and you're like, oh, I better pull it back. Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you're
Like,
you're a
people
little,
put
yeah,
myself in a box.
exactly. It could be these like teeny tiny experiences where you start to shift and adjust yourself where you're like, I'm too much, I'm too little, I'm not enough, like I can't be that loud, or I need to be louder, or extroverted. I mean, it's just all these little ways that we shift in, and what we're doing is abandoning our real selves in order to
Yeah.
bring a version that we think is more lovable. And I know I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of
Yeah.
that for years and years of like that
And
Taylor
attest to
Swift,
that too.
that Taylor Swift song where she talks about mirror ball, like I'll show you all the versions of yourself tonight. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that gets me
Yeah.
because I'm like, yeah, I used to call myself a chameleon or a shapeshifter
Same.
of
Yeah.
just
The
like,
be safe.
yeah,
The sign.
to be safe. Um,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot of like unlearning the habit, and it takes a lot of like real self love.
Yeah.
Like I love what you do with Soul Image
Mhm.
365 and your self-care events and
Yeah.
self-love events because self-love as a concept is so much deeper
Hmm.
than just like the surface level self-care, self-love. It's like loving the person that God made you to be. Even like I'm pretty weird and loud and I can be obnoxious and like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's like loving that version of yourself that you've hated for so long. And, sometimes that's a struggle. And sometimes I'm like, wow, you're really cute and I enjoy you, So I think it's like a lifelong journey, probably, of learning how to love those versions of yourself. What do you think?
You hit so many good shiny nuggets there. I think the first thing is, it's hard to love ourselves. And if we've learned to kind of put ourselves in a box or a mask for so long, it's
Mhm.
a lot of things that we need to take in baby steps. Sometimes we think change is going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
If you abandon yourself for 20 years and all of a sudden you think, I have to start choosing myself,
Yeah.
and you do it in kind of like this drastic way, it may feel shocking. So that's why it's so important to give yourself baby steps in that and start in low stake situations. As you were speaking, I was thinking of just ways to build confidence. I did a YouTube video on this a while ago. And if you have a problem speaking up in like big crowds, me, um, it can feel hard. So it's really important to practice that in low stakes situations. Practice that with people you trust. So then you can build momentum. It's like, oh, I am capable. I can do this. Like it's gonna be okay. And then you can like grow and start speaking up in bigger crowds and things like that.
Yeah.
I think something else that's important is like finding people who are like you. And I think we're in such a good space now where people are talking about like neurodivergence and all those things
Yeah.
because when I grew up, like I grew up in the 90s, I think we're around the same age. So I don't know if you
Oh
remember
yeah.
like the No Child Left Behind
Yep.
movement, like the administration. I think it was under the Bush administration. It was like No Child Left Behind.
Mhm.
But at the time, they were using only two learning styles. It was like cognitive development and like reading comprehension, something like that, right?
Yeah.
If you're an audio visual, if you learn by doing actions, all those things, your learning style wasn't being highlighted. And so it wasn't just like that I was dyslexic, but like my learning style, like
Yeah.
I'm a visual learner. Give me a movie, like, sorry, I do love to read. I love audiobooks and all those things. But I
Yeah.
didn't learn that until years ago because put a book in front of me. I'm like, I have no idea what I just read.
Right.
But give me the movie, I'm like, oh, I understand that chapter now.
Yeah.
So I think like it's really great that we're talking about this. So I think we need to find community where we feel safe to continue the conversation. So
Yeah.
um, there's like dyslexic groups on Facebook. There are places, ADHD groups, and things like that.
Yeah.
And this isn't to isolate yourself from anyone else, but it's to remind yourself that you're not alone. One of the biggest things I've learned is that like when you feel like you're alone or you have shame, that's going to keep isolating you. But the
Mhm.
moment you realize like, oh, you know, 1 in 3 people have this,
Yeah.
I'm not alone. I can continue to grow. And that just helps to melt the shame and the isolation away. So that's why I think it's like very important to find people that may be going through similar things that you are.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. I like that sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I teach middle school during the week, and the kids, it's cool to see their generation. They're having these conversations more. And there is like a little bit less of a stigma or shame around like I have ADHD or I have dyslexia. And it's actually kind of a cool connection point for me because I'll be like, oh, or if I'm reading in front of the class or writing on the board, like I'm the teacher. I'm not supposed to know everything, but I'm leading them through to information, but I will spell things wrong or I'll, say things wrong or whatever. And I'll say like, oh, they know, like my students know that I'm severely dyslexic. And I have probably,
Yeah.
I don't know, 5 to 10 students that are also dyslexic and
Yeah.
also have ADHD. And so it's kind of like this normal thing that I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, like I'm dyslexic, and I'll just keep reading. And the kids will be like, yeah, me too, and their faces light up. Or they'll say, I have ADHD, and they're kind of like downtrodden about it. And I'm like, I do too. And they're
Yeah.
like, really? And I'm like, yeah, like look around my classroom. Like it's a little bit
Yeah.
messy. It's a little, there's a lot going
Yeah.
on. It's very
Yeah.
colorful. I'm very colorful. It's
Yeah.
just, and I love that conversation about not just awareness, but acceptance and,
Yeah.
and learning how to teach the younger generation how you learned. I love that you brought that up. I did horrible in middle school and high school. I didn't go to college until I was 26. Because I really struggle. I really thought like I can't learn, I can't read, like I'm horrible at this. And
Yeah.
but when I put myself back in college at 26, it was like this moment of like I'm going to do this. But really the gift I gave myself was I learned how I learned. And that
Mhm.
was huge for me because I've gone on
Yeah.
to like get my undergraduate, but then I figured out like what I need to do to process information, just like you with the movies. Like I'm tactile, so I need someone to explain it to me.
Yeah.
I need to go do it. So I can't tell you how much I've learned on YouTube. I mean, I think
Me
I have
too.
like a doctorate in YouTube University because
Me
I
too.
people there's so many people that will teach you the things that you want to know. Like I've looked up emotional health stuff. Like I've struggled with codependency
Yeah.
with my family or enmeshment or these concepts that I'm like, okay, YouTube. And then some lovely coach
Yeah.
walks you through like this is enmeshment. And I'm like watching the video like, oh my goodness, this is me. And then or I've used it for content creation, how to self-publish my book, how to work with Canva. I've used it for financial advice, like how do you
Yeah.
invest in it? What's a Roth IRA? I mean, no matter where you are, and you don't have to go to YouTube, but I think it's important to learn yourself in a way that I kind of encompass it with self empowerment. That's how I looked at it. I'm like, oh, I know how to get information to me in a way that benefits my life. And I
Yeah.
also learned how I express myself in this world. Like, I do love
Yeah.
to write. I do love to talk and share and have these conversations. And I think before, where it was like, reviews like Courtney doesn't stop talking. Like, this is high school and middle school.
Oh,
Courtney
yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
stop talking. And I think about that sometimes because I'm like, yeah, now I'm an adult. Bless you. That I'm an adult now that doesn't stop talking because
Yeah.
I'm literally a speaker and I write and I teach all day and I connect with my family and I have coffee with a friend. And something that was like kind of framed in a bad light about me is actually a gift that God gave me. And I think about that sometimes because pivotal adults in our world can either kind of like add shame to a place or kind of set us free in a moment. Um,
Yeah.
and if you didn't have that, if you're like us too, there are ways to go back and do that for yourself. Like
Yeah.
that's part of that empowerment piece. So it's all encompassing. You don't have to be like, a child to go back and get this. But I think it's twofold. Adults can benefit from helping their younger selves in this area. And then we as adults can help the younger generation with these things
Yeah.
as well.
I agree. And it's definitely twofold. And one way, if you're like, oh, I didn't have this stuff growing up, one cool way you can do it is find certain movies. So another thing about me, I grew up without a dad. We won't go down that road. Like he's
Okay.
around, but he was kind of virtual. All we really do is talk on the phone.
Okay.
But, didn't have a dad there.
Mm.
And one cool way that you can kind of go back and I went back to get this healing is I found really positive movies that had good dad figures in them. And this isn't my idea. There's another course through two consultants, Abby and Justin Stumple. It's actually called the Father Series. But one thing they did is they wrote down a list of all these movies with positive father figures or just positive men to
Yeah.
go watch. So I did watch This Is Us. Oh man, I
That's
get your tissues for that. But just like the men in that show is just very, very positive, very enlightening, very encouraging. And that was great because it also helped me wipe the view that I had of God off because a lot of times we have our dad's face on God. the way our dad showed up for us, subconsciously, we're putting that on God.